everyone. Welcome to the Project 44 LinkedIn Live series, where we're putting the feature and spotlight on our partners. It's week 2, and we're excited to have another partner today join us, Oracle. And each week we feature a different partner in our LinkedIn Live series. And again, this is part of our out of office hours sessions that we've been doing since May of 2020 to just educate the supply chain ecosystem and the community on different things that are going on in supply chain. So with that, we are excited to have Oracle involved. And with me today is Derek Gittoes, Vice President of Supply Chain Management Strategy at Oracle. Derek, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi Thomas. Thank you very much for having me here. Glad I could participate.
Yeah, great. I appreciate you you coming on to talk about technology and how it impacts the supply chain and how customers are being able to build more resilient supply chains. So with that said, real quick, folks, if this is the first time you joined us, let me give you a little description and an idea of what's going on. In this series, we're having Project 44 partners come on to talk about specifically supply chain, what's going on with the pandemic, how customers are being able to utilize technology to build a more resilient supply chain, as well as be able to shore up their supply chains and fill that weakness that was exposed during the pandemic. And, you know, we're still in the middle of this thing, but we're beginning to see customers utilizing technology to build a more resilient supply chain. So Derek will be talking a little bit about that, what to expect in the next 30 minutes. We will be covering a lot of topics, but we also, as I said before, we're interactive, we're live. This is going to be collaborative. It's very conversational, no PowerPoint slides. We're just having a conversation. We're excited to, again, have Derek give his thought leadership and his thoughts on what's going on in the Oracle ecosystem and around customers. So right before we get this kicked off, for those of you that are watching, if you could just in one sentence sum up what is your biggest pandemic related challenge, just to start the conversation, we would appreciate that. We do have people monitoring the chat. I'm monitoring the chat, and we'll also be able to look for your questions to be able to answer those and get Derek's thoughts on those as well. So again, we're excited to hear from Derek today. I'd like to start by asking you, Derek, well, let me point one thing out. 20 years ago, I started work at a company called GLOG, which is now Oracle Transportation Management. And I was going through a lot of things in my office, and I was cleaning out my office, and I happened to find this, and I'm going to show you something. Maybe you can remember this, but it's yes, a GLOG Coaster. So I thought, "Ooh, what a great way to just kind of kick it off here with you," and because at the time you and I actually worked together in GLOG back in the day.
Yeah, if I had known, I would have brought my matching GLOG mug that goes with that coaster, which I borrowed, 20-some years ago.
Yeah,
so it's hard to believe. Back in August of 2000.
Right. But I think it goes all the way back to 1999 so really
yes,
technically it's 21 years old, right?
Yeah, 20 years from when I started.
Right. But man, you guys have come a long way with the product, and so we'll hear a little bit more about that today, but I just thought it was very interesting to reflect on time a little bit here. So what I ask everybody that comes on, just real quick, is something about yourself. So Derek, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. I'm going to ask you this question. Where were you born and where were you raised?
It's an easy one, and kind of interesting story, I think. I was born in a place called Pinamuda, which was a Canadian Air Force base in town. My dad was a civil employee on the Air Force base, and I was born on the hospital there, and that Air Force Base no longer exists. It was taken down several years ago, and it's returned to nature. So there's not too many people who can say they were born in what is now a ghost town. Uh, and I grew up on my parents' farm in Manitoba, Canada. And this is, of course, during the 70s and 80s. So I tell my kids not the 1870s and 80s, but the 1970s and 80s. And it was a time when the CB radio was all the craze. You
Oh
remember TV
yes.
shows like BJ and the Bear, and of course the Smokey and Bandit movie, and everyone wanted to be a truck driver. I wanted to be a truck driver. My mom didn't think necessarily that was the best career choice. So I ended up studying engineering, and I've been in the logistics software industry for the last 26 years and counting.
Okay, great, great. So, yeah, I remember those days too, and it was riding down the road, and everybody had the CB with the big antenna, and the way to
Yes.
talk to not just each other, but I told my kids the same thing. I said there used to be a time where you actually would call out and ask for help from truck drivers and say, "Hey, where's the next Smokey Bear?" Meaning, where's the next policeman with his radar gun, so that
Oh,
you
yes.
would know. Not that I'm condoning anyone to go speeding down the road. So let's just note that. But no, it's always interesting to hear where people grew up and things of that nature. And you being from Canada and raised on a farm, and then to pivot and go and to get into supply chain. So it's interesting where we all came from in our backgrounds. Um, One other thing I'll ask you real quick. The last time I saw you was in March in Amsterdam at the OTM SIG, the European SIG event. So that's the last time I saw you face to face. So how have you been? And really, what's the pandemic done to you personally from a work life?
Sure. Well, I mean, little did I know that that would be the last time I would venture outside my home county for more than 5 months. It was only last week actually was the first time I left San Mateo County here in the Bay Area. Yeah, as you said, we were there for our special interest group or so user group conference in Europe, and in terms of the impact, obviously, working from home. My wife's working from home. My kids are doing school from home. My older daughter is about to start her freshman year in college. We'll be doing that from home beginning on Monday. And I would say the only positive, well, maybe not the only, but certainly one of the things I do enjoy about our current situation is when I do get to drive somewhere, the notorious Bay Area traffic has completely disappeared. So at least that part is positive. Maybe we can figure out a way to hold on to that one a little bit. But I certainly do look forward to getting back into my office and back to meeting and working with customers and partners directly as opposed to our virtual only world right now.
Yeah, well, that's good to note. And thank goodness for technology like this, so we can still do these types of things. And but you're right, that face to face and person to person contact is important. And I too hope that we'll get back to that point. So maybe the next time I see you will be in August of 2021 at the OTM SIG in Philadelphia, or potentially maybe back in Amsterdam in
Sure.
2021 of March. You never know. But with that, let's just get into it. We're here to talk about supply chain, what's going on during the pandemic. Very interested in talking, hearing your viewpoint. So, with the pandemic, we've seen many companies be exposed with supply chain issues, and now they're looking to use technology to build more resilient supply chains. Which technology solutions and products are Oracle's customers buying and implementing? And be good to get your viewpoint on that.
Yeah, well, certainly if you're in the supply chain profession, you've always known how critical supply chains are to the success of your business and the economy as a whole. And clearly the pandemic and the associated shutdown really just exposed, how critical they are and in many respects how brittle they are. There's nothing more painful than going on a shopping trip and not being able to buy those critical supplies to kind of bring home that fact. So I would say we're seeing demand kind of across the board for our different supply chain technologies. The investment in supply chain solutions to help improve those business functions, if anything, has quickened pace. I can speak more specifically to the logistics area since that's the area that my team covers. So we're seeing great demand for our transportation management product, whether that's for greater shipment visibility, you know, the kind of joint solution we have with Project 44, or having greater control of that transportation activity. We're seeing a lot of interest in warehouse management for a couple of reasons. One is obviously there's been a boom in e-commerce based fulfillment and
Mm.
contact-free fulfillment, whether that's, you know, the obvious, which is getting stuff delivered at home, but even in an industrial setting, we have customers, for example, that use industrial vending machines to deliver their products, and they've seen the growth in that model. You know, literally a decade's worth of growth happen in a matter of a few months. And plus the shortage of labor in the warehouse, just from the shortage of people, as well as just physically not being able to have as many people in a facility. So that's driving the need for more automation and more intelligent kind of warehousing. And then I would say a third area to highlight is in global trade. If you remember pre-pandemic, you know, a common, you know, front page news was, you know, this, that, or the other new trade agreement or new trade spat. And certainly those trade issues haven't gone away, and indeed the pandemic has brought to the fore, you know, the nature of having companies look at the nature of their supply chain in terms of what countries they're shipping from or shipping to, and how new trade agreements, like for example the U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement impacts that. So we're seeing really great interest across the board, and those are just some of the solutions our customers are looking to implement to not only just kind of endure the current situation, but to come out the other side in a better, stronger position.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Great. Um, and again, for those of you that are tuning in, please, you know, give us your comments as we continue to have this dialogue. Um, and I'm going to go bounce back and forth here from time to time and look at the comments, Derek. And it looks like we have one person who says, "Hey, I still have the GLOG truck." So I had one of those too. So that's great to hear how, you know, your customers, what they're ramping up for, what they're asking about. Interesting about the industrialized vending machines. So with the second question, how have your customers leveraged solutions, and I'm talking about the Oracle logistics solutions, to build more resilient supply chains? So maybe you can give us some examples of how, you know, the products like OTM or the WMS have, and maybe talk about some advancements with that and how customers would use that in order to address the specific issues that they have right now.
Yeah. So I guess one area I could drill into in a little more detail in terms of product capability and how customers are using it is something we call logistics network modeling.
Okay.
So that's a new capability we brought out as part of our transportation management suite, the Oracle Transportation Management or OTM suite. We brought that out middle of last year, and you know, part of the motivation for developing this capability, which is it's a very unique what-if scenario simulation modeling tool that enables organizations to look at different changes to their transportation network. And we had already been kind of preaching, if you will, the need to have these kinds of tools to develop contingency plans to, you know, deal with disruptions in the business, whether those are operational disruptions like closed ports or more structural disruptions like buying a new company or, you know, entering a new market. And again, the impact of COVID and, you know, the economic impact and changes in the supply chain again just sort of has brought that need to design resilience or operationalize resilience really to the fore. So, for example, one of our customers is using that tool. They're a U.S.-based manufacturer in the high-tech industry. Their supply chain is very global, very heavy Asian set of dependencies in terms of their supplier base and manufacturing base. So they're using the tool to help analyze changes to that supply chain from a transportation impact perspective. If they begin to shift supply sources, let's say out of China, for example, to other Asian-based countries or you know, North America, South America, that type of thing. We have a wholesale distributor customer based in the U.S. with North American operations. Again, some parts of their business have seen a big impact, like construction industry. All of a sudden, the demand for product goes down. Other segments, the demand for products go up, and so they use the tool to help analyze the changes in those freight, in the product demand and the corresponding freight demand to look how do they align customers with their distribution center network or source additional carrier capacity or analyze changes in carrier rates and how that would be modeled in that impact. And then the third one, just to kind of make it a little more international, we also have a European-based, very large European consumer goods company with a global supply chain, and they use the tool more as a to go back kind of in time, if you will, and look at what actually happened in their network versus what the best case scenario would have been if the optimized plan could have actually occurred, and compare that actual versus the optimal to identify, why did the optimal plan not happen? Was there a performance problem with their 3PLs or with their carriers, or problems operationally in their distribution centers and manufacturing sites, to identify, again, how can they tweak their network to raise the performance level.
Okay, great. And when was the logistics network modeling? When did you guys debut that?
Middle of last year, mid 2019.
Okay, so that's part of the OTM cloud application, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's a product option, so it's all part of the same OTM suite. That's right.
Okay. So with that, it's interesting to start thinking about from a modeling standpoint. Um, you know, Project 44 and Oracle have been partners for several years, and more customers are beginning to adopt the OTM transportation management solution and utilize the native integration with Project 44 for visibility. Um, any any examples or anything that comes to mind in regard to how you see that solution for customers and what you're hearing from customers?
Sure, absolutely. I would say there's really two major areas of impact or value that the visibility data from Project 44 brings to our transportation management customers. The first is sort of I would say the most obvious, which is the operational impact. So for a lot of organizations, they plan their shipments, they begin to execute, and then it kind of goes into that, proverbial black hole, and they don't know about a problem until, the customer calls or the warehouse calls or the factory calls. And so just having the visibility to a shipment's current status as it is in transit then gives us that opportunity to proactively identify those shipments that have that potential of having a service failure, whether that's a late delivery to a customer, or late delivery of raw material into the production facility or into the distribution center. And so that obviously gives you lead time then to react and to be able to try to mitigate that impact, whether that's through expediting or shifting supply around, whatever those mitigation strategies are. But I think the even bigger impact from having the visibility data is the strategic impact. So as I mentioned, with logistics network modeling, one of the things our customers are doing with that is comparing what was the ideal situation that should have executed versus what actually happened. And the reason, of course, we know what actually happened is that's the buildup of the historical information that we're getting from Project 44. So we store then within OTM that optimal plan versus what actually occurred, and we can compare those two and analyze and look for what are the root causes of chronic performance problems. For example, are we always seeing lateness when we're using this carrier on this lane, and it's not just for this customer, but this specific receiving location of that customer. Do they have a problem with maybe the hours of operation that we're modeling for them don't actually line up with what they're really doing, or they're not very good at maintaining their appointment commitments. So having that base of historical data becomes extremely valuable to, again, identify those root causes and make those changes that allow your network to operate better and better over time.
Great. And that's interesting how you could utilize that data with I'm going to call it LNM. I think that's the acronym for
Yes.
Yes. But to be able to take that, so take an execution, real time visibility, and then build up that history and take that and push that into the modeling. One thing I will note is that we do have joint customers in North America and Europe, and across multiple industries. Utilizing OTM and Project 44 for visibility. So, and we continue to see a lot more customers adopting the OTM P44 solution. So we appreciate the partnership that Oracle has with Project 44. So thank you.
Oh, likewise, it's, as I said, it's delivered a lot of value for our customers, and visibility, that operational visibility is quickly becoming, table stakes. And as I said, I think using it in the strategic modeling is really sort of will allow customers to get to that next level of value.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, well, and the other thing that ask questions about is, I know a lot of our attendees. Let me let me check the comments here real fast to make sure I don't want to feel like I'm leaving anyone out. Um, One of the things that we've been asking Derek is about roadmaps and what's going on at Oracle in regard to investment, and where are you building new features or new components of the application around the Oracle logistics space? What's coming in the next 12 months, for instance?
Yeah, well, there's always a lot going on. Whenever you have a group of engineers, they're gonna build stuff. So we continue to obviously build out new features and capabilities. I guess two that I would highlight, and again, I'll highlight them because they kind of directly relate to the solution that we have with Project 44. One is we just introduced, actually, like last month, what we call our logistics digital assistant, which is a chatbot. So we have that great operational visibility. We know where the shipments are. We know the status of the related orders. And if you want your customers, from a customer service perspective, or your internal personnel, the folks at the warehouse or at the plant, to have access to that information, typically they would have to make a phone call, or they're sending a text message over to Joe in operations, trying to figure out, okay, where is my shipment? Is it on time? That sort of thing. And with the digital assistant, we can now run, whether that's in our dedicated app on your smartphone, or through a web widget, or through common messaging platforms like Slack and WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. You can access that order and shipment status information through either text, natural language text, like where's my stuff, where's my shipment, or through voice using Siri or Alexa, just to speak it, where's my order. And the chatbot can interpret that language and to say, hey, this is Thomas, and I know Thomas is from company ABC, and we've got these 6 orders that we've got en route to him in these locations, and here's the current status. And by the way, if you want to drill down, here's the current GPS coordinates, and we're getting that information obviously from Project 44. So the digital assistant just makes it that much easier to get that information in the hands of the people who need it. So that's exciting, and that's something we just delivered, and we're going to continue to build on providing additional functions that the chatbot can do, like provide information on what's the freight costs. Maybe you want to set an appointment time, confirm a delivery. And then the second area that I think is really, again, from a strategic perspective and from a big value perspective, is we're building out a machine learning model for doing transit time predictions.
Mm.
This is something we plan to deliver the first version of in early 2021. And so, as you know, one of the big challenges in transportation is you plan, and you have a certain plan, transit time, which is either based off the carrier service schedule, or you've got the expected driving distance and average speeds and that sort of thing. But there can be a wide variance between the planned transit time and what the actual transit times turn out to be. And so what we've done is we've undertaken this project to use a machine learning approach to automatically identify which features from the shipments impact the transit time, and to be able to predict that transit time, not based off of the carrier schedule, not based off of static lead times, but rather the features of those shipments. So when I'm shipping truckload from this location to that location, and it's on a Monday, and it's for this type of product, and it's with this carrier, here's my predicted transit time. And what we've been able to demonstrate is that error in the predicted versus the actual, it can be significantly reduced. And so that obviously has an impact on providing a better level of service, making more reliable decisions, potentially, less inventory in your supply chain, because of course people hedge against that uncertainty by, stockpiling or shipping more stuff than they need to. So we think this could be a real game changer. And again, the input to that is the actual historical shipment data that we're getting from Project 44, and the planned information that our system is producing in the first place.
Sure. Interesting. That's that yeah, that's good. Let's look at the questions real quick, and let's see what we've got here. All right. Good old, for some reason, good technology here. My system is frozen up, so give me just 1 second. Let's see. Here we go. Hi, Thomas and Derek. Thank you for sharing your experience in technology. Let's see what's. Here we go. As we manage through this pandemic and distinct verticals demanding distinct levels of capacity, which is the key innovation within the Oracle ecosystem we should be mindful of to best prepare and understand shifts in vertical demands? So they're asking specifically about these industries, oil and gas, food, beverage, etc. So what are your thoughts there, Derek?
Well, yes,
It's a wide
certainly
question.
yeah, I mean, I would say certainly the impact has been, felt differently by different industries. I mean, clearly, like if you're in the hospitality, hospitality sector and restaurant and hotels, this has been a very, extremely difficult time. Whereas we've seen in some consumer oriented, consumer products companies where they've seen demand for some sectors of their products go way up and
Mm-hmm.
some of their products go, way down. So it's really kind of been all over the board. From our perspective, we provide horizontal based solutions, meaning that we don't target any particular industry per se. We target people who've got goods to ship. So whether that's consumer packaged goods or retail or bulk products or what have you. That being said, I would say the greatest demand for our logistics solutions are coming out of a handful of industries: consumer products, some elements of retail, wholesale distribution, third-party logistics, and discrete manufacturing companies, industrial and high-tech type manufacturers. But again, there's a wide variance on what companies are seeing, even within a given industry segment.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably even different based on the application that Oracle has. So for instance, if it's the Logfire WMS versus OTM versus global trade or whatever the case may be, by vertical,
Yeah,
depending on what that demand is at the time.
sure. And again, it impacts different industries in different ways. So obviously, retailers have seen an impact in their store-based traffic because the stores weren't open or people,
Right.
are not going. So online deliveries become very big. At the same time, that has impacted the manufacturers of those goods because they are also looking to serve customers, in some cases in a more direct way with online fulfillment options as well. So it's the impact is uneven.
And I'll say, I'll add one more component to that. For manufacturers, it's on the inbound side as well, right? Because of just if the pandemic has caused an issue to suppliers being able to supply a specific material to the manufacturer, then it all continues just to go downstream. That's why I think, going back to the topic you mentioned about visibility, that's key too, because if you're planning your inbound transportation, obviously you're going to need that information in order to look and see what that impact is on the outbound side. So, and that information can flow from across multiple applications within the Oracle suite. So, interesting. Well, folks, if there are no more questions, so we've had a lot of comments, people talking about what's going on with their lives in the pandemic. And I'll look one more time. I'll refresh to see if we have any more questions. And if not, then I think we are a wrap. And Derek, let me just say again, I know you're busy. You got a lot going on there. We appreciate you coming on to just give us an idea of what you're seeing, what your thought leadership, what's going on with Oracle customers, what's going on with Oracle more in general in the supply chain. So I think this has been it's been great, been very educational. Hopefully, all of our viewers thought so as well. And you'll be able to come back to our page and watch this video again if you missed it, or if you're just coming in late. So we would encourage that. Otherwise, Derek, thanks again. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Well, thank you very much, Thomas. It was great talking with you today.
Yeah, thank you. And to all our viewers, please know again, every Wednesday through the month of September, we will be doing these sessions. Next week, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to have Dr. Mary Holcomb from the University of Tennessee, professor of supply chain management, join us to talk about what she's seeing in the industry and the help that she's provided around the pandemic and supply chain resiliency with lots of companies. So hope you can join next week. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
See ya.